Hello, welcome on in. It is time to once again listen to some new music. It is New Music Friday. We have a full-length album to listen to today. It is by a pretty unknown artist. They go by Dispirited Spirits. This is a solo artist, young Portuguese artist Indigo Dias. I discovered his music in 2023 with the release of his second full-length album, The Redshift Blues, which just blew me away. It was absolutely fantastic, captivating in every sense. Immediately I became a big fan of him. And recently he's been releasing a few singles leading up to this third coming album. And this one is called Wept. It is 41 minutes long, 7 tracks long. I think it's going to be a really amazing experience. From the singles so far, there's not really been anything terrible about them. Not even close. I've enjoyed every one of them quite a lot. Again, his signature kind of sound that is just so theatrical. His vocals that are just gorgeous. I'm a big fan of every kind of style that he approaches. He pulls that off really well. So I'm here to listen to this album, of course. As always, it's going to be a casual listen. So basically, I'm not a serious music reviewer. I'm not an Anthony Fantano. I'm just a casual listener, here to give my thoughts on what I think of the music, here to rate the music, and give my overall thoughts on the album. That kind of deal, as always. There are some long tracks in here I'm really looking forward to. I think we can get started. Alright, yeah, let's do this. Starting with 2 of the singles, the first one being Forecast. That is not Forecast. Shit! Spoilers. But yeah, I did react to these singles, so I won't be giving too much words. Power lines remind me unspeakably still, and I can see. Here I reach the sky, but the sky.
Tragically, things are not always what they seem.
There's a silence in the air still, where it's only below, where the paddles in mine wired up like a pen, a needle so indifferently close to my heart as I read the transcript. A passion, satellites miss, spirals out my throat, finds the worst news to bring in a storm. Anything sing and die in ceremonious anchor to hold down the ship. Warnings issued, wrenches enamoring windowsills, the fear in everyone's eyes as I fall back asleep. So now, like a waiting room, I will never hear a name. Just
He is very quiet here,
Every second song, which coast,
which is something that I pick out every time. It's very hard to hear. Get the building. Goes into the chorus. Okay, so there's your opener. Forecast, such a beautiful day. I mean, it's a fantastic way to introduce your sound, and to get us kicked off into this album. I admit that I don't enjoy it as thoroughly as I did the first time I heard the song. The first time I was pretty blown away by the chorus. I think the chorus is absolutely stellar, and I love the whole approach. I love the vocals, the delivery of the vocals. It's so clean and so pretty. I just really like Indigo's voice. So, when he really belts like that, I think it sounds great. The verses are kind of where I have my issues, because, as I was saying while I was listening, it is at times very difficult to actually hear Indigo over the instrumentals. The mixing is a little bit iffy, and like the delivery, the cadence of how he pronounces things is also not helping, because you just really have no idea what he's saying for most of the song outside of the chorus. Which, it doesn't necessarily mean it's bad by any means. It's just like you want to be able to appreciate every aspect of the song, and that includes the lyrics, the lyricism, the writing in that regard. And when you can't understand what's being said, then you can't really connect with the song in terms of the writing. But that being said, instrumentals are gorgeous. Like I said, Indigo's vocals, especially in the chorus, sound great. Overall, it's a song that comes and goes, and it's just such a vibe. It doesn't overstay its welcome for what it's doing. And everything else that I have to say, I already said in my reaction. So go and watch that. And now we have the next single, the next song, Counting Raindrops. Nice transition, I might add.
Underneath blue sea
Maybe it's my headphones.
A 70 outlook, an impossible past burst trace along wrinkles from a fire hose to the ditches in my face as I defy the laws of gravity.
Really love the
and can't
delivery in
put
this verse.
expiration dates. Mine is holy medicine from the pommel of a blessed blade, while Father foretells prayers for all the questions I won't have. But look how I can count to 10 to tip of bun, and all that's left out south of waste of storm for years. A child that sees the weatherman.
Love the croakiness of it.
Underneath blue seamless skies, consecrate my inner spine.
Okay. Counting Raindrops has, like, stayed consistent for my enjoyment since I first heard it, unlike Forecast. I still think that it is an absolute top-notch track, consistent throughout the whole song in terms of quality. The chorus is a whole lot of fun. Again, I love the way that he's shouting, the way that he's not exactly screaming, but he's shouting, and his control is great. His emotion is great. That's something in the verses as well. The delivery in the verses, in his vocals, the way that he kind of croaks out what he's saying, it sounds a lot more sincere and human. You know, in a lot of songs, vocalists try to be like as clean and smooth as, you know, pleasant sounding as possible. But it kind of makes it seem formulaic and, you know, produced in a studio, if you know what I mean. Whereas here, it feels a lot more natural, which is great. Something I didn't point out last track is that, you know, the lyrics are really engaging. They're really interesting. A lot of the time, it is you don't have a chance of understanding what exactly is being told. What the narrative is in these tracks, so you really have to like pay attention and think about what is being said, and sometimes that can come off as a little bit, you know, pretentious or whatnot. But here, you know, it plays with a theme. It plays with this weather theme, which is kind of what this album's whole theme is weather. In the last album, the Redshift Blues, it was all about space and the galaxies and whatnot. This time it's about weather. And the way that he constructs his lyrics is super, like, I can't put into words what I'm thinking. It feels intelligent. It's very interesting. It's poetic, I think is the best way to put it. You know, it feels like every song that this person writes is a poem, and it just sounds gorgeous. Anything else? A bit of a shorter track. I think that is good with this particular song. I think that the general sound doesn't need to be dragged out any longer than it was. You know, had the verses and the choruses, they're pretty fast paced, you know, the energy is there. I don't know what else you could have fit in there, to be fair. So yeah, solid, really, really solid song. Probably on par with Forecast, maybe even better now. You know, before I thought Forecast was the superior song, and now I'm feeling that this one is better. I've obviously still a couple of issues with the mixing for me, in terms of, you know, he doesn't sound loud enough to be heard over the instrumentals. By the way, the guitar work on the instrumentals is so flavorful, and the production is really interesting as well. I should mention that. But yeah, I don't know if it's my headphones or what, if I just didn't notice it before this album, but the mixing is iffy. But that's kind of the only serious criticism that I have so far. Songwriting wise, it's really good. So let's move on to the first new song, DNR. Spicy guitar line.
Branches tiptoeing around the windshield. You branch out the highway endlessly. Radio sends death tolls that only I can hear. The devil still strikes Newfound Eden. The traffic jam grows ever hopelessly, and the cars give to the crowd. I'm alive, but I can see there's a storm that follows me. Every breath I fight a flame, playing tight. I hope you recognize me.
Okay, a bit of brass.
Like a halo
Saxophone.
of Moses, I split the waves of
Everybody's
incoming
doing
traffic.
saxophone now.
With arms wide open, I wonder why none of them will fucking. Mirrors flash like in real minds, yet no one's looking back at me. Avoiding the shadow, crashing into the light of a flame.
Really nice harmonies. Also, shout out to the drummer. They do a great job of spicing up the drums. These riffs.
I'm alive, but I can see there's a storm that follows me. Every breath I fight a flame, lay me down until we find me. I'm alive, but I can see there's a storm that follows me. Every breath I fight a flame, lay me down. I hope you recognize me.
Awesome. Oh, I love the power in the vocals near the end there. Fantastic. Okay. DNR. Actually explicit. Was not expecting that. That was awesome. That was really cool. I think at the moment the shining aspect of these songs is that the instrumentals are so like fresh. You know, I can't think of any artist that I've personally heard that is doing it quite like Indigo is on this album. He's kind of moved away from I keep saying Dispirited, but the Redshift Blues, the second album. which was a lot more floaty. You know, the atmosphere was a lot more calm and serene and beautiful, whereas this one is a lot more dramatic because, like I said, the theme is more weather, and for the most part, weather can be either calm or chaotic. And, you know, there's these moments of calm in the eye of the storm, you could say, and then, you know, the energy builds, and it's like this cacophony of wind and all that kind of thing. Maybe I'm just yapping, but that's how it feels to me, which is great. You know, I'm able to connect with the theme of this album through the sound of the music. Sonically, it's doing a lot in the narration of the actual music. Again, kind of tricky to take in the lyrics, but the emotion was really there. Again, the vocals are really, really strong. I feel like his vocals were more suited to what he's done previously in his previous albums, which is a lot more kind of pleasant sounding, if you will, because his voice is really soft and high pitch. So that's kind of what you'd expect him to go for. Whereas here, he's being a lot more, you know, loud and brash with his voice, which is not quite the same impact, but it's really cool at the same time. Hearing him use his voice in this manner with this song, with this sound, being much more intense, I think that it's working surprisingly well. So, hell yeah. Yeah, I really love the saxophone in this song. That was a welcome surprise. The guitar work was fantastic. Again, I gave a shout out to the drums because I don't know who does the drums in his music. I don't think it's Indigo himself. Jesus Christ, bird, be quiet. But they do a fantastic job of spicing up his songs. I haven't heard a single Dispirited Spirit song where the drum work isn't exciting in some manner. It never feels bland. It never feels too, you know, predictable, which is great. Yeah, that song went by quick. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. I think I've said just about all I have to say for that one. Not really what I would consider his strongest material, but still high quality, what I was hoping for right here. Now we have a nearly 10-minute long track, Kishi Kaisei. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Hopefully. But this is a long one, so I'm looking forward to seeing what he does here. Alright, let's do this. Here's the calm before the storm. I don't know why I'm in the top left. That's better.
Whispers lost, forsaken dust floating through my window. Monsoon at last, a stillborn's ashes licked off my fingers. Silence crack, the floorboards laugh at every word unspoken. This house is stirred, not a shadow, sun, only I stood too still.
Okay, a bit of a slower build up. Is it gonna explode?
If anything
Okay.
I'd come to
notice that the production is a lot more stripped back, which is surprisingly nice. Alright, here we go. Now it's gonna build. This acoustic sound is really nice. Not something we've heard from Indigo for at least a while.
Shadow, the name, the air outside holds its breath for days, and I tell them hear it exhale. A storm is coming, the madman wails. This house of holy has holes in its head. I blew my pony, your words you hear not in your prayers, but in the river's cries.
Keeps using this time signature.
Sound, a flicker and that burns inside. A rooftop leaking cyanide. A graceful
Where are we going?
wish of suicide.
The wailing guitars. Oh, that rocks.
Only quiet and death now. Along the intersection between the church steps and the weather station, I gouged his eyes out, fashion wheels for a chariot coated in his bloodstream. Such thunderous throne built from
gorgeous. Okay, Kishikaise. Um, See, this is why I love his longer songs. It's because he understands how to build a song, how to keep you engaged, and how to keep it interesting. Wow. For a while, that was such a tender song, such a really like plucky acoustic track that, you know, it didn't rely on the production to show that he is a strong, talented musician. And then moved away from that sound, and we did build up in instrumentation and production and the layers and layers, and we reached a very euphoric climax that felt so earned. I think that the way that song progressed was incredibly natural. It flowed really well. It felt right. It felt like that was the way that the track was meant to go. And I was very relieved with how it progressed. Yeah, that was another gorgeous song. There was obviously a lot more to take in with this being a longer track. Multiple different segments. You know, we switched up with a different time signature, a regular time signature at one point, and then transitioning into that careful build-up, where it just kept layering, like the saxophone, and you could hear like screams in the background as well. Fantastic. Just, again, he really does put a lot of effort into these songs. The passion is clearly evident. And, you know, even at times when I'm thinking that maybe I'm not going to connect with the song so much, it's not really doing much for me at the moment, I'm then reminded why I love this artist so much, because it immediately snaps me back with this, the way that it moves on to something else, and it feels like in doing so makes me appreciate the previous segment more, if that all makes any sense. Yeah, that was a great song. Definitely one of the highlights so far. Alright, we have now the third and final single. I don't know how to pronounce this. Irithel. Count Your Lucky Stars. Again, did react to this, so I probably won't be saying too much on this. But I do enjoy it, so let's give it a listen. The energy in this song is just unmatched.
Stay just this year, why by my wrist? This perfect symmetry fell into this perilous mist. Your eye flashed for thunder to practice blast, and your reflection begun along the rolling path. The young voice that stumbling drunk tonight, wish your target is frail, is Messiah now. You will listen through my sins, desire fairly for you. Reckoning if it's the last thing I say through.
I love this part so much. Again with his time signature.
How highly speak across silver, different virtues throughout broken lives. As the wind caught word of your breath, and how you roll
All right. God, it's absolutely without a doubt miles ahead of being his most intense song, most kick-ass song. Yeah, that song is a heap of fun. Um, I don't know. I feel like despite being fairly short for what it's doing, lengthwise, and I don't know, not being the most exciting in terms of his production, the execution is still amazing. It's just a super catchy chorus, like, and again, the way that he works with that time signature, using an irregular time signature like that is not easy. It is not something you can just pull off as easily as any other simple time signature. And he's proven now like 3 times that he can use the time signature in an interesting and natural way that doesn't feel clunky, that doesn't feel, irregular. It works well with the flow of the song, and I'm impressed. It's a very commendable effort from the solo artist. I think again the instrumentation here, again the drumming is obviously a lot. It's at times overwhelming, and at first I was a little bit on the fence with that in particular, but it's grown on me over time, and at this point, I think that the rage in that sound is really fitting. It sounds great. And yeah, his Indigo screams in this track as well are very much worth pointing out, because I just I don't know how you pull off such consistent energy in vocals without messing up your voice, but he's doing it, and by harmonizing it with more tamer vocals, if you will, it sounds really, really, really cool. I think overall it's not the flashiest song, but it's a hell of a journey. It's just really fun. It's just really fun, plain and simple, and very catchy. So yeah, I love it. Right, we got 2 more songs. The first one being Powerline/Powerless. Let's give it a listen. 5.5 minutes. Again, a fairly uncommon time signature.
Standing tall along the path from schoolyards to infinity, my broken veins as power lines, they gush my bloody legacy. Last winter, a static rain, a few months from the field trip, I was tangled up in copper wire and fitted from children's memories. It never sings in headlines, but their parents rob receivers. Not why and when, but how this year, while silent currents flood the streets. That's how I dreamt it to have lived to tell this story of death. Now I spend nights awake and days on my last breath. Power lines across the skyline. Wonder how I'm so powerless. Power lines across the sky remind I'm Ran past fields with nothing fearing what was meant. Fresh runs on melody, yeah.
Again highlighting the croaky, quieter vocals.
Ashes in my lungs for tasting only better.
I think it suits it very
passion
well.
fruit I share with her, a birthmark on a heritage shin. First square dancing nearingly to the gospel of death. For preaching a storm is coming when I'm inside and breath for sure. Washing bloodstains and regret. For disavowing God while embodying its wrath. For counting my steps by slaughtered lambs in the path. From my doorstep to eternity. For not treasuring values of blood bonds and family. For not shedding a tear. And my grandfather's eulogy as his memory was swallowed by the wind. For keeping friends away. For not being a peaceful child. For barricading always for weeks at a time. As telephone wires forget my name. For fleeing and escaping every social situation. For fearing every face and feeling something's out to get me. A whisperer of fate spinning away. For having two powers and every single one. For fearing this powerless shell to the bone. Through a skeleton I'm not sure I am. For all I see about there not barely forget.
It just keeps building. Right. That one was interesting. It was a different approach because this one structurally was basically just the same repeated melody and beat and whatnot, vocal delivery and everything, repeated for 5 minutes, gradually building. You know, the vocals became more intense, the drums became more intense. Obviously, everything just gradually got louder, more intense. And that's kind of mostly what it was all about. I guess for a little bit it was different, but you know, about 2 minutes in, it just became this like trance almost that just like overwhelmed you. And I can't lie, what it was sounded great. You know, the way that it built up was engaging, for sure. But that being said, it was a very simple approach as far as you know, structuring and writing a song can go. You know, it was very repetitive in the way that it was, you know, delivered. What the fuck am I saying? The song itself was just repetitive. It's just that it kept building, which is an interesting approach for sure. But you know, it doesn't really go anywhere. It doesn't have this climax that feels like earned, like we did in one of the earlier songs, either Kishikaise or DNR. It just kept going and going and then just ended. So interesting. And again, it sounded great, but I don't know. I don't know if I really cared very much for that song. I think that this artist has explored so many various kinds of ways of approaching the structure of a song, and this is just another one of those creative liberty choices. This direction is completely new to this artist, and I mean, it's good that he's taking these different approaches, he's experimenting, and making it sound really cool. But personally, didn't connect with that one so much. It felt like I was just getting more anxious, and then there was no kind of resolve. Maybe that's the point. I don't know, but I don't think it's going to be one I return to. I will let it have a chance to grow on me. I'll give it a few more listens, but for a 5.5 minute song, that kind of direction is gonna be hard to pull off, to be honest. In a way that makes me want to return to it anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have for that one. All right, but I will say again, the passion, the energy is commendable. Right, let's go on to the last song. For Everest, Winds Wept. 12 minutes long. This is going to be probably a bit of a roller coaster, probably a bit like Redshift Blues, the closer of the last album, I hope, because that was one of my favorite songs of the year. So we'll see if it can live up to those expectations and perform just as incredibly. Alright, let's do this.
A hurricane looks like a work of art. The radar on the ground shows geometric circles and spirals. An astronaut sees a similar sight of breathtaking beauty. And a satellite 23,000 miles up also shows nature's art. But underneath, inside the storm, turns into terror.
Crying in its ribs, the mountain echoes back no more, and I fear everything. 3,000 feet and below, I measure myself through footsteps of a slope no one asked me to climb, tracing each scar like a map to Harriet apologize. A breath clinging on to the tree line, thought that never came, unravels the seams in my sweater, fades quiet voices to the blizzard. Well, I am gone, forever rest, wind swept away. Here I reach the sky, but the sky won't reach.
Call back.
Here I vanish along chilling echoes of screams. Will you remember me? Will you hold my hand? Will you remember me? Never quite lost. I'm reeled into oblivion. The higher I went, what little I kept. The higher I went. Even an evening as quiet as this one finds me lost for words, breathing an elegy of frostbitten melodies. Oh, well, I've grown weary. Well, I've grown thin. Well, I've grown unsure. You'll allow me these words. This unending shiver forever is everything and everyone. Can anyone hear me now? Here I reach the sky, but the sky won't rain. Here I vanish along, feeling echoes of screams. Will you remember me? Will you hold my hand as I'm Here I found a place to bleed out my train. Here I breathe the air like I'm part of it. Will you remember me? Will you hold my hand as I'm The higher I went, what little I kept of me. The higher I went, what little I kept of
Okay, where's it gonna go from here? Right now. Okay, and that is Winds Wept by Dispirited Spirits for Everest. My problem with that is that I went into it expecting it to be like a grandiose finale to the album, much like Redshift Blues was in the Redshift Blues. But what we got was a much more, I want to say upbeat, but also like hopeful sounding song, a lot more low-key, not as dramatic as many of the other songs on this album have been. Obviously at the end it got pretty loud, but for the most part it was very relaxed. It was running with good vibes, and it once again wasn't relying on the overwhelming production to blow you away or anything like that. And honestly, I'm perfectly fine with that. It doesn't always have to be a mind-blowing closer for every album. But yeah, I appreciate the direction that this closing song went. Again, the longest song on the album, and again, being a somewhat slower, more chilled out track, you really had to, lock in to the vibes of the song. And yeah, the instrumentation made that pretty easy, to be fair. Again, the soulful, guitars, and again, the drumming is, as always, keeping it interesting. But being said, all of that, I think it was probably another one that I didn't particularly connect with, much like Power Lines. And it's kind of hard to put into words exactly why. I know my expectations were of something more grandiose, but I still enjoyed this song. I absolutely still enjoyed this as a song, as a closer. But compared to some of the earlier songs, I think I was just hoping for more. There's not really anything about this song that surprised me. So, you can compliment all of the aspects of the song just fine. Structuring, everything like that. It, again, progressed really well for being a longer song. It is impressive. But there's nothing, and I mean nothing here, that wowed me. Which is a shame, because as the longest song, as the closer, you are hoping for something special to make a lasting impact. But that just didn't happen here, so I think that is why, for me, I'm probably once again not going to return to this song. But yeah, the whole album is just gorgeous. Once again, the way that it kept the theme consistent was impressive, for sure, and not always incredibly obvious, but it did. It kept up the theme. Overall, vocals, I really don't have many issues with. I think the mixing is one area that could definitely be improved for next time. Again, though, that could be more on my end, but I don't think it is. And yeah, I think this time around, I've kind of known what to expect, even though he definitely spiced up his sound a bit more. It's much more energetic and loud and bombastic. Maybe it's just because I'm now so used to his sound being so flavorful and unique to me at the time in 2023 when I first heard him. Now it's more like, this is what I know and love, but at the same time I'm not being blown away the same as I was when I first heard the Redshift Blues. But all of that being said, I think this is still one of the better albums I've heard all year. I could easily give this a 9 out of 10. I think my final rating is going to be a 9.1 or a 9.2. I'm going to think about it for a bit. We'll just say 9.2 for now. Give it the generous extra plus 0.1. But that is still an amazing album. The first 5 tracks here are amazing. There's very little I could criticize in terms of the actual writing. It's more just the execution. There are some parts that are weaker, more underwhelming, that could be improved. It's these last 2 songs that I really didn't connect with this so much, for whatever reason. But again, overall, so consistently beautiful in its sound, in its energy. The quality of the production is really solid. So yeah, I had a really nice time with this one, as I expected. Not as much as I did previous album. Again, I'm always going to compare albums with these artists, because it's like, that they can do things differently to have more of an impact and whatnot. But yeah, I think that this is another really impressive release from this young solo artist, and I'm absolutely still gonna be looking forward to whatever he comes up with next. If he does anything else, well, I'll be there for when he does. So yeah, Windswept, 9.2 out of 10. Fantastic record. 2 thumbs up from me. And yeah, I think that's about all I have for this one. Maybe I'll try and look into the lyrics a bit more. Maybe I'll appreciate the album even more if I do. But yeah. Alright. As always, I hope you enjoyed this experience as much as I did, if not more. I hope to see you again sometime. Go and check out some of my other reactions if you like. Otherwise, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and thank you for stopping by. Goodbye.